One of life's great discoveries is the difference between the word possible and the word probable. Well, if you think about that, that is, an interesting discovery. Taking it from the perspective of one who reads the Bible, look at it this way. Is it probable that you will feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and a couple of fish? No, it's not probable. Is it possible to draw the water of life from a deep well without a bucket and a rope? It's not very probable. Is it probable that the man born blind suddenly can see? Well, no, not really. It might be in some weird way possible. Is it probable that Lazarus, dead 4 days and in the grave, still wrapped up in his grave clothes and therefore not struggling for those 4 days to get loose? Is it probable that Lazarus will walk out of the tomb? The answer is, of course, no, it's not probable. But faith, at some point, looks at all of those moments. They look at moments like they have no wine. Is it probable that water will turn into wine? Faith, at some point, has to, like Mary, say, why don't you do what Jesus said to do? Why don't you believe and let God work out what's possible, even though you here in the world think that, well, it isn't terribly probable, and therefore we will not look for it, and we will not put our trust in that. We will deal with what is most probable and work all our lives off of that. And yet, the book of John gives us this beautiful picture of so many things, highly, highly improbable, not just becoming possible, but becoming reality. Our first reaction to all of this is, of course, saying, how can this be? How can we come to this place? And the answer is, well, with God, nothing is impossible. Also the words of Jesus spoken at the raising of Lazarus. With God, all things are possible. Faith is sort of a holy, holy struggle. We live in a world where we know what normally happens. We know that when a crowd of hundreds, thousands show up and all we have is 5 loaves and 2 fish, we know somebody's going to go hungry. And out of that thought of impossibility and improbability comes a whole myriad of moments and times of bad stewardship, no stewardship, hoarding, and all sorts of other unhappy results as well. Now, in the life of God, this is different. And in the life of Jesus, this is different. Jesus, says Larry Gillick, is sort of the sign maker. Yes, if you go follow the Gospel of John, Jesus works 7 great signs, and each of them upsets the neighborhood quite badly. How can this be? How can this Lazarus be raised? We must put a stop to this sort of thing. How can this blind man see? He must have been lying. His parents must have been lying. Something has to be wrong here. And it goes on and on and on. Those of you who have gone to church in the last couple of weeks, we've read all the arguments that have arisen after Jesus feeds the multitudes. And yes, people don't know how to deal with it, and it's improbable. It should be impossible. they haven't made the step yet, and neither have they made the step of faith to say that with God all things are possible. This is why people argue with Jesus, and this, says the Gospel of John, this struggle is also why the authorities choose the tragic road of putting Jesus to death. It was, after all, not terribly probable that he would come back. Well, if you read the 20th chapter of John, you know that exactly that happened. Fast forward all of this into your life today. Fast forward it into the moments where you consider what is probable and what is possible. And ask yourself, at what point have I made what I know to be probable, the most likely thing to happen, the inevitable thing that will and must happen, instead of making room for God to do the impossible, if I may misuse the word myself. Maybe it's just the improbable. Because again, with God, all things are indeed possible. So brothers and sisters, maybe this week, as you navigate life, ask that question of yourself often. When I look at life around me, when I look at poverty, when I look at depravity, when I look at the pain in my own life, when I look at the way that my family is or isn't working, when I look at the frustrations of where I work, have I surrendered my life to what is most probable and have shrugged my shoulders, thrown up my hands and said, it must always be so, because there is no way out. There is no possible way out. And then ask yourself, if faith met these inevitable things, might not an improbable thing happen that is only possible with God as well? Have the signs stopped completely, or have we become those who no longer want to be the sign carriers? Look around. Here on earth, make a little prayer saying, please show me what's possible, Lord. Please show me what's possible. And have my heart overcome my sense of surrender to what's always the most probable outcome. And then see, if you do not find places in life, places in your own house, places at work, where perhaps God can shine and shine brightly, and where God, through the work of the church and to his people through faith, may turn the improbable into what actually is. Pray that God can show you what's possible, even though you have surrendered to the way things are.